my start with anime was uh technically it was Pokemon. By the way, I don't like when you say Digimon or Pokemon as an anime that you like, people are like, "Oh, Pokemon and Digimon don't count because those aren't anime." Or I mean, because everybody watches Pokemon, so it doesn't count. I don't know why people do that with Pokemon and Digimon. It's like, yeah, no, those are still anime. I don't. I think people have this perception or this idea that when you call something an anime, you also mean a mature cartoon. And it's like, no, an anime is just a cartoon from Japan. That's all it is. It doesn't have to be super mature or dark or whatever. So yeah, like Pokemon is still an anime. But yeah, the reason I started watching anime was because of Dragon Ball Z. Rest in peace, Akira Toriyama. But I think my first was Pokemon, but the first one that I watched and I was like, "Oh, this is anime," was Dragon Ball Z. Uh and then later on with all the other Toonami stuff like Tenchi Muyo, uh Sailor Moon, Outlaw Star, all that kind of stuff. But yo, what happened is what I've noticed is that throughout the years, right, as you get older, or I'll say this, in that there's a phase when you get into anime where you're kind of you're fascinated and more wide-eyed about anime because it's a new thing to you. You want to find out everything. You want to find out all the must-watch anime. So, but yeah, as I got older and as I got access to more anime that I could just watch on my own accord, right? I got a PSP and I was able to like download free anime from forum sites back when it was easier to do that kind of thing. So, I was downloading all the stuff that people were saying you should watch, you know, and watching the Adult Swim stuff like Samurai Champloo and all the went through the whole rigmarole. And then as I got to college, I watched Akira and Appleseed. I watched Appleseed. I don't know if y'all have heard of Appleseed, but I'm really showing my age now. But yeah, I just really went back and Paprika, went back and watched that. But yeah, so I went through my phase where I was like very fascinated with anime. And on top of that, I started participating in the community. You know what I'm saying? So I started going to anime conventions, talking to people online about anime, that sort of thing. But you start noticing anime changing over time. And those art style changes were gradual, man. The way art styles just slowly shifted. And then you look up and then you're like, oh, wait, hold on. This ain't the anime I grew up with. This isn't the art that drew me into this medium initially. This isn't the art that like attracted me to anime in the first place. And even when when you notice how like the character proportions were even different with anime, right? Like when you look at character proportions back then, they were trying to look more grounded, I guess. Not I don't want to say realistic, but just look more like not exaggerated. And then when you look at even how the colors were more muted and the lines were had a different thickness, all those things just were slowly changing over time, but then you don't notice it until too much time passes and you're like, oh, I don't know if I even like how this looks anymore. That's how I kind of that's part of the reason I also fell out of anime. But the other reason too is that I started to just view anime as just like television. It's just TV shows to me. So the same way I would watch something like Living Single or Parks and Recreation, those would take up my time the same way anime used to take up my time. So then at that point, I'm judging anime by the standards of everything I watch. I'm not just saying like, oh, I gotta watch anime, or I gotta fill this quota for how much anime I watch. I'm just filling a quota for how much shit I'm interested in. So if Parks and Recreation interests me more than My Hero Academia, I'm not gonna say, oh, because I'm an anime watcher, I gotta give that time to My Hero. It's like, no, I'm gonna watch Parks and Rec. I don't have to box myself in like that. So me getting other interests was like a big part of like why I fell out of love with anime, because it was like, oh man, other stuff is like just becoming more interesting to me. Uh, but then there's another element too, um, for the anime thing that like I think affected. I wouldn't say it affected, but it definitely made me perceive myself differently in terms of how I engage with the hobby. Because the thing about me engaging with the anime community over the years is that I've gotten to observe how other people consume things. I've been able to observe how people talk about things. I've gotten to observe how enthusiastic people are about anime and stuff. And I think one thing that happened with me is like I felt pressure, not pressure, but I guess it was kind of like a social contagion situation where other people might keep up with anime seasonally or something, right? And I'll look at that and be like, "Oh, okay, so if you're an anime fan, you got to keep up with the newest thing. You got to keep up with like, whatever's recent so you can be able to talk to other people about anime and y'all can have new things to talk about." But me being someone who's multifaceted and has other Merrick, I saw your chat to how dare you have other interests. Exactly. Like me being somebody who has other interests, I had to kind of be realistic with myself and be like, okay, this is how these people can engage with anime because maybe they don't make music or maybe they don't play as many video games as me or maybe they don't watch real TV. They don't have any interest in like real sitcoms or anything. So for me, I'm just I had to be realistic about like the other things I'm interested in. And this is why when people give me suggestions sometimes and I'm like, oh, you should watch this anime. It's like, I don't mind the suggestions, but it's like, you have to also understand how many other interests that I have. So I have people, for example, I like music. So I have people who will tell me, oh, you should listen to this album. And then I have my anime friends who are like, oh, you should watch this anime. And then I have my video game friends who are like, oh, if you want to get good at King of Fighters, you got to be playing this consistently and training with friends and labbing combos for at least an hour a day. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like everybody's bandwidth isn't the same. So to tell somebody like, oh, you should just watch, it's like, you can tell me that, but you might not understand the bandwidth that I have to even engage with anime the same way that you engage with anime, you know? So that's one thing that I think really affected my relationship with anime over the years is me just accepting that, oh, dude, you aren't like you aren't like other people in the anime community. Most people, that is just all they do. That is their thing. They're consistent, they are dedicated. And I respect it, by the way. I respect it. But for me, that's one of those things where it's like, okay, now I have to accept where I'm at with it in life. You know what I'm saying? The other thing too with anime, and I'm not gonna say that this is a big part of like I'm not gonna say this is a big part of why I watched anime, But back in the 90s, which is when I got into anime, not late 90s, early 2000s. Back then, I don't know if y'all under I don't know how old everybody is in here, but anime felt more like a secret thing that you just stumbled across. So there was this element of mystery to anime because it wasn't easily accessible. Like I remember uh you would catch random stuff on the Sci-Fi Channel when the Sci-Fi Channel used to play anime, or you would have to go to a video rental store like Blockbuster to rent some obscure. Like I remember I rented freaking the Street Fighter 2 movie, or was it Street Fighter 2? Which whatever movie had the Chun-Li shower scene, like I rented that movie. And I was like, yo, what is this? I didn't even play Street Fighter at this time, but I was like, yo, what is going? There was an element of discovery to anime because it wasn't like this like widespread thing yet. So that kind of contributed to the excitement that I had about anime back in the day. And it's not really the same anymore because it's kind of like, I'm not saying that's a big reason for why I'm not as into it now, but I will say that is a big reason why I initially had that kind of like uh enthusiasm when it came to like watching stuff or finding stuff. Yeah, okay, it was Street Fighter 2, yeah. Verum, oh nah, nowadays I just watch for my own interest. I can't handle shuffling seasonal shows at all anymore. I don't see how people do it. I don't see, to be honest with you, bro, I don't see how anyone ever did it. But I don't see how I did it. I was like, why was I doing that? If I could go back, I would just slap the old GK and be like, dude, you don't have to do this. Just, you don't have to keep up with seasons. What are you doing, bro? Chasmosis is definitely had more of an underground thing back then, even down to the VHS ads saying things like, these aren't your daddy cartoons. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, we about to go down memory lane. Do y'all remember watching when they didn't have the copyright restrictions that they have these days, and you will watch anime in parts on YouTube? Ooh, y'all don't remember that? Y'all don't remember that? They used to have full anime on YouTube, man. They would not take it down. Woo! That was a dip. Yo, the early internet was the wild, wild west, man. The early internet, it was just anything goes. Oh, man. They just had anime just up on YouTube, like no copyright, no nothing. It was just there. Just, yeah, just watch it. There was a short period of time where the Funimation's channel just straight up posted all their anime. I was downloading everything off their YouTube. I used to go to this site called pspcrazy.net, and people would they would convert videos for people to watch anime on their PSP. I'll be watching them things at 240p on my little PSP screen. The other element too of like this me growing out of anime too is that what happened to the 26 episode format? Is that just done now? Is everything just like a One Piece type of deal? Like 50, 60? I know One Piece is longer than 50, 60 episodes, but you know what I'm saying? Like that is also why I have so many gaps with anime too, is because I was very much a strict, I'm only watching them 26 episode joints. I'm not about to be watching no 20 season. There's a few anime I've watched that were longer than 26 that I like. The big example being Yu Yu Hakusho. Yu Yu Hakusho is the big longer than 26 episode anime that I made an exception for that one. That one's different though. Yu Yu Hakusho is undeniable, you know. Geronimo, what up, man? What up? Merrick 13 through 26 man, yes. Different time. And as I'm talking more, I'm like, yeah, this is why I can't this is why I can't do it anymore, man, cuz it's just. And then even going back to the point of like being able to talk to other people about anime, it's like even if I were to watch like the rare 26 episode joint, that's not the anime that people are talking about these days. Like, how long is Jujutsu Kaisen? How long is Attack on Titan? How long is My Hero? I think all of these are like the long joints. And even back then, even like, because in 2012, when Psychopaths came out, even back then in 2012, when Psychopaths came out, because that's not a long anime either, I didn't meet many people that watched it. I didn't meet many people that watched Psychopaths. Like, it was one of those rare, like, kind of low key anime that was like, oh, you're different. Steins Gate, even. I don't know many people that have watched Steins Gate. Whenever I mention Steins Gate to anyone, they're like, oh, okay, I did hear about that, but I never watched it, type of thing. By the way, Steins Gate is top 5. Steins Gate is top 5 for me personally. That is a genius anime. That is a genius anime. Yeah, see, I'm not about to do the Jujutsu. I don't do that. I don't do those. I don't do those type of anime. I don't do the ongoing long anime, you know. But yeah, also I think we touched on this a little bit, but I don't know, man. The way anime looks now is just too clean for me. The way anime looks now is just way too clean. Like, let me let me give some examples. Hold on. And boom. All right. Look at this. This is Outlaw Star. Jazzy, yeah, that rough look, man. Like, look, you see this. Hold on. Let's go back. Let's go back. You see the scratchiness? You see the way the shadows are done? You see the way the colors are a bit more muted? Do y'all get what I'm saying? Like, and look at even like I don't know if y'all can see his face. I'm gonna use my mouse to point. Like, what is this? What's going on right here with the lines on his face? It just adds character. You know what I mean? It's just different, man. Even like this little like gap right here on his, all of that adds up and just adds character. It adds like a roughness. You know what I'm saying? It adds a groundedness to the art style. With the right ship and enough guts. Gene Starwind is just another bounty hunter seeking fame and fortune. They don't make them like this. They don't make them like this anymore, y'all. With the help of the experimental ship, the outlaw. They don't make them like this anymore, y'all. They do not make them like this anymore. I feel like the concept of the OVA is gone too. Like, no more short one-off stories. Everything needs to be 100 plus episodes now. Yes. That messy look is the result of animating on film, plus all animation was hand-drawn. The soul is gone because we have more tools now, unfortunately. But yeah. Anime relationship is complicated. Would love to watch more, but end up playing video games instead. Oh, Lucario. That's something I want to talk about too, because like I like to say that I'm post-weeb. That's what That is the term I use to define myself, as post-weeb, because even though I'm not entrenched in anime, or I'm not entrenched in the anime community, let me say that, a lot of my taste is still informed by my history with anime. So the video games I like, the some of the music I like, all of that is like very informed, heavily informed by anime that I've watched. So, for example, I love Xenoblade because a lot of Xenoblade reminds me of Tenchi. Just that, because Tenchi Muyo has like a more fantasy sci-fi mix, right? It has with the planet Jirai and like the royalty, but also the spaceships and et cetera, et cetera. That sci-fi fantasy mix that I got from Tenchi Muyo is what drew me to Xenoblade. So a lot of my taste is still informed by anime, even though I don't necessarily watch anime anymore. So that's why I like to call myself post-weeb, basically. Also, like, anime culture has changed too, in terms of like how people talk about it or how people engage with it compared to like when I grew up. And honestly, the interesting thing about this too is this aspect of it, I don't think is a bad thing, because now you have people who are able to make anime their entire personality, or really like have a whole like brand around being into anime. Like people like RDC World, and y'all know what I'm talking about, like that whole side of being into anime. Um yeah, that's a whole different layer to it that I think is interesting, because like it's a good thing, but it's like, damn, I didn't, I wonder what my relationship with anime would be like now if I grew up with like an RDC World or a Meg the Stallion that was like highly visible. The interesting thing too, I don't think people realize this, but anime is low key more mainstream than video games in terms of like being able to find people that you can talk about it with. And I think that a big part of that is a lot of women are into anime. Women in the video game space hasn't like blown up in the same way that women in the anime space has blown up. Women are like heavy into anime now, and they are, in my opinion, like leading the charge in making that mainstream, or making anime mainstream right now, you know? So yeah, anime is like to the point where like I'll be grocery shopping or something, and I'll see parents with their kids, and like these are kids like 8, 9, 7 years old wearing like Naruto shirts. All demographics, black, white, whoever, like Naruto shirts, My Hero Academia shirts. Like I'll see them things like just randomly out in the wild. Okay, Scarecrow, that's the big one right there. This is the big, read y'all, listen to this. With the low entry cost and accessibility, I'm not surprised anime has passed video games. Exactly. Exactly.